So, just trying to think about here how I want to structure this beforehand so hopefully it stays on the shorter end opposed to what I usually end up with. You know, I don't do notes for this shit or anything. I just kind of talk off the dome for the most part because I want it to feel like, I don't want it to feel like, it's literally just like it's just like a thinking like walkthrough. It's like a conversation, right? Like every day I trade, I'm having a conversation with the market. You know, that is my approach to trading is to, treat it like an interaction, like a conversation, like a relationship. You give some, you always have to give some. Like, if you have a beautiful wife, right? Like what the fuck are you going to be doing as her husband? Like if you wake up every day and you're like, "Holy fuck." Like shit, like I might be playing from behind here. Like I got to make sure that like I lock this in. If you really want to lock it in, right? Like you're going to be like taking the trash out. Like you're going to be getting the mail. Like you know, not that there's anything wrong with not doing it, but I think at least my personal goal for any, future relationship that I want to, take to the next level, get married to somebody. Like I want to be at that point in my life marrying somebody and they're not working, right? Whether that's 3 years from now or 7 years from now or whenever it ends up happening, like my like something I'm gonna do is I'm gonna not have my partner work. I want her to live her whole life, right? Like that is gonna you know cost me more, right? But to get the good things in life, you have to play the game, and there's no this game, as rigged as it feels, sometimes it's not rigged. There's one right way to do it, right? And everybody knows it, and not everybody can do it. And so it's just about deciding what you want. Why are you trading? I think everybody's trying to make money. And decide, like, whether or not, it's not a question of how much effort do you want to put in. There's two options. There's two options when you're thinking about like a journey you want to be on or a goal you want to accomplish. I don't like the word goal, but objective maybe. You have two options. It's not about should I give it 100%, should I give it 50%, should I give it 30%. There's two options. You either give it enough effort to complete it or you don't, right? And you have to pick one or two. You got to pick one or the other at the start. You can't, leave your mind unmade and then go through it, right? You have to pick at the start of your journey. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, right? And I know I said that this one I was gonna try and keep it shorter, but I'm not even going over what the original topic was supposed to be, right? So, the last video I made kind of went over like strength as a theme, and we're still really early into this bounce up, um, coming into the first or the close of the first or second week of April. And it's about the process of identifying when you're okay to risk back on and when um, the theme is no longer strength. It will always be strength, but as the individual strong leaders pick up, the further the run progresses, the more their individual themes will develop. Like AAOI, light, optics, stocks, TER, um, like GLW, SanDisk, MU, WDC, STX. You can think about really any of these names that have peers in its group, and you know that's when the shit gets fun, right? As a momentum swing traders, when that shit starts to happen. Um, you'll never catch a falling knife. I have one position. Have I missed a 10% bounce on indexes? Yeah, I have. Have there been strong names that have been doing well? For sure. This is my only position, is this one. And I can go over that and what I was looking at, and how I applied what I'm talking about to that type of thing. Here's what I'm looking for as we continue to hold up. And I was willing to long again on the 8th. I think it's I understood the how big the gap was when I traded that morning. I only took two things. As much else as I wanted to chase, right? But this isn't like there is money to be made in the very bottom for sure. I think there's trades you could make money on, but there isn't, you know, the money that you like really don't have to make that, try that hard to make. Like that should be everybody's goal here. It's easy money, guys. Come on. Um, it's afterwards. And you look at April lows and there's always something leading the market up from the bottom, and it was Nvidia and it was Tesla and it was other larger caps. That was the theme for the April pullbacks. And for the momentum run that we had towards the end of 25, um, like this whole stretch of time here was probably the best stretch of the market. Well, it definitely was. I think there's been some decent trades, and this has not been a tradable period, but I think there's been some decent trades. I think this had great trades and was very tradable. Um, it felt like everything you bought just went up because it did. It's unbelievable. You just buy something and it goes up. It's crazy. And it feels like you're not trying. You're like, what the fuck? Like, am I doing this right? And that's literally how easy this shit is. It's the problem is when that is not happening, people just overcomplicate it. They just can't stop talking. And I've been victim to that too. But you see what brings the market up. And for the first stretch of time, it's going to be strength in leaders. It's going to be leaders. So, Light and AAOI are both optic stocks. They're both strong. So that just tells you one thing about their strength. But I think what you'll see a lot of the times in most other themes, and it looks something like this. I think space is a fantastic example. I think we should start with probably PL. So when we go through these, and I think by strength it's probably PL, and then Lunar, and then Rocket Lab, and then probably ASTS. And I know there's a few other ones that are popping up. I haven't quite looked into these. I don't know how to group these ones yet. Yeah, there was another one that was doing well that I'm kind of blanking on. They're all just kind of looking good. But you can see that, PL is definitely stronger than ASTS. So during the first stretch of the market, if you look at this, this is not something like any time in here. If you're looking to buy something going up with the market at the bottom, or at least very close to the bottom, you want the strength and momentum leaders. Those are your priorities, right? That's what the whole last video is about. You want the stocks that have been proven resilient to market conditions. Because if you just have to think about how the bounce works, right? Is I mean, I don't know how stupid I should get with this. The stock market is never all moving up or all moving down at the same time. It's always a gradient. Once again, the last video I went through like the company analogy. It's always oscillating. Everybody's lagging a little bit, just depending on how strong they are. The weaker you are, the more you lag, right? And like so if this is a reflection, and once again, it's not always going to be the index charts because most of the stocks I trade probably aren't even on these indexes. They're, you know, ridiculous dollar volume over 10 ADR momentum spec names. Like that is just it's literally the only thing worth trading in like ever, in my opinion. Like why are you who cares? And that's why the indexes are like not always going to be perfect, you know. Like the strong shit is going to lead this up. So when you think about a hard oh, excuse me. If you think about like a hard think about how much more difficult this move was than this move after making, carrying incredible momentum and spending a month and a half building a ridiculous flag on the 50, like, like, you know, this is easy money. Like it's and this one happened to line up perfectly with like a index setup. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. This is when everything participates, right? That sweet spot when the orders have been given and received and before they change. So everything goes up. That's why this is linear. It's why it's clean. This is what a pure momentum market looks like. And you definitely, and this is a lesser degree, but you definitely felt that if you traded this period of time, right? And this is a much harder time to trade. So it's just about understanding when the leaders know the orders, when the laggards know the orders, and then when the leaders switch their orders again. And so here is what you look like, or what you look at. Here's what it looks like. I combine those two. Here's what it looks like when the shit just starts to click. And it's literally, it's magic, right? So even though, and once again, I'm going to preface this by saying like, this is why, I don't know if preface was the right, I don't think that was the right term to use there, but I'm going to start by going over like, once again, how this is changing, right? So when you're first climbing up the stretch, it's always going to be strength and momentum leaders because they're the ones giving the orders and it's before everything. So think about it. If you have like, you know, like each one of these lines is like a bull or well, fuck. This is so stupid. Um, this is a market where the leader has the orders and the laggards like don't, right? So that's like a transition. You're either gonna have like all bull or like momentum bull, momentum bear from like a feel standpoint. It will feel like four things. Holy shit. Momentum bull, momentum bear, transition from bull to bear, or transition from bear to bull. That's it. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm not willing to hear anybody out. I don't even care if there's like a common answer everybody agrees upon. That's really all it comes down to. It's about catching those pendulum swings, ideally as a long trader, when you get into that sector. Qualamagi says this all the time. I make all my money in 3 months of the year. A quarter of the year, you make all your profits because momentum bull is a quarter of the total options, right? And so this is what it looks like when you're transitioning. So if we were, I'm going to get all my fucking lines off my screen now. If we were like momentum bull, and this has been spent between bouncing pretty much between transition. It's just transitions, which ends up being chop. Like that's just my way of like trying to phrase it for this. So momentum bull, transitions, and then I would say we had a pretty solid momentum bear. I think there were some really solid shorts. And now, we're either in two options. As momentum swing traders, we're in two options. We can either be in a transition period or we can be in a full-on momentum market. Here's the way I think about it. Like let's think efficiently with our trading. And you can only do that by explicitly defining a system and how you trade, writing it out, reviewing it, changing it if needed. That's the only way you can do it. Like just think about it logically, right? If we have two options that were, because we're clearly trending up, it doesn't fucking matter if we go up or down again because we just like look at what's in front of us. So I want to trade. As soon as I see this, I want to trade. I don't care if it's going to reject, right? Because if it rejects, I'm not going to trade. And so at this period of time, I'm immediately looking at things I want to buy. Immediately. It happens every time because you're not looking to trade all the shit out of the gate. So I have one position. Do I have a ton of names I think look monster? Yeah. Did I really want to chase NBIS like the last 3 days? Yeah, but I don't have a setup for it because I've written my system out. And as much as I've wanted it to, when I look through my system, this doesn't fit. There's not been a single day that fits any of my setup criteria, and and That's my personal approach to it. And so I couldn't justify taking this to myself. I wanted this for the absolute same thing. It was a horrible opening range. It spent the first hour of the day underwater, and I didn't want to buy a bunch of VWAP reclaims on a bunch of names. I did it on AOI, but but I don't think I think this is I think they're winning trades, but I also know logically they're a chase, and you know my system holds me accountable, and so AAOI was the only one that fit a setup category criteria for me, as it did have a pretty clear upper trend line it was gapping out of, and that was something that was, it was, in my opinion, it was much easier to justify this one going up. And Light 2 had the same thing pretty much. As you know, as much as this looked the way it looks, I think this is probably going higher, and I could be proven wrong, but I have a quarter of my account in open risk and 10% of my buying power in AOI, and that's all I have, and it's enough exposure for me for now, and I'll continue to add more as shit works, right? And so it's not about like buying the dip, buying the bottom. You're never, because that shit never works. If you can catch momentum leaders like this that have a setup, these are the ones that are acceptable to take. Um, and I'm thinking about bad stocks, but I don't have any on my list. So um, just think of anything that looks anything other than what I have on my lists, right? Like there's plenty of weak shit that is broken down. There's some shit like Plug where it's less strong, and this is a really good setup. And once again, it's just not one with the context of the market and where we're at. I mean, I was cash for most of the year before this. I'm only trading the shit that I feel confident I can do. And I think that's the way to do it. If you know what makes you money and you know what makes you good money, yeah, do it. Do it. Don't do other shit. Um, Strength goes from being the leading theme, and not sure how much it matters that optics really were the only little click here that didn't seem to do well today. I think everything else had a pretty solid day. I know data centers did. Like I really want to chase all these names like Wolf and Cypher. Another one I just stared at this morning. I was like, I'm pretty sure I could maybe justify buying this. I'm anticipating it's breaking out of the upper trend line. I see the thin day. I see the reclaim of the 50 off the 200. It is pretty clearly has it's figured out. It's figured out. It figured out its plan, and you can look at it and you can understand the the theme content like text, right? Like the whole theme's doing well, and this is what you're looking for. This transition period. This is a gradient, like the gradient between, if it takes you like a month, and these are just made up, it takes you a month to switch between transition bull to a full momentum bull. It takes you a month to do it. Like these are the things that you're not going to see like all on day 29. You're going to see one of them at the end of the first week, and you're like, oh, well, that's interesting. I wasn't really, I don't think that was happening before. And then the next week, you'll see like two on Monday, and you'll be like, whoa, like, bunch of shit starting to act different. And then, leaves you on ice for the rest of the week, and you start to forget about it. And then, like, five of them happen on Monday the next week, and then, like, 10 of them happen on Tuesday. And that's how this shit works. And it's just shit like this. It's seeing it's seeing lagging names that, opposed to their peers in the theme, haven't been moving with the market. The leaders lead the market up, and so naturally, lagging stocks, as strong as they are going to be behind. But as it turns around the dial, right, it's the waterfall effect. The strength trickles down. And so now you start to see, do these charts look the same? No, they're all at different stages of strength. They're all at different, structure progressions. They look pretty different, But here's what you start to see. You start to see, a move up, high volume, and what for now appears to be the makings of a tight flag into the 10 probably, and then this just it looks like it just wants to flag into the 10 and then it just wants to take out 23 and try 40 or really as high as it wants to go. I really wish I held this one from back from like 11 bucks. I thought about holding some as a like a position trade, but it it's inefficient. That doesn't make any sense. That's just for me to say like I did it, and that won't make me the most money. So I passed on that. But what does this look like? Is it questionable looking? I don't think so. This looks really choppy, man. Like that sucks. I think PL's, but PL is such a clean trender. I think it'd be. I don't know if it'd be my first pick for space. I think Lunar, if it stops with the chop, will be pretty good. But it looks like it's pulling back. Volume is dying out into the 10. Um, Rocket Lab, once again, not a pretty chart. It's stuck in this. It's been stuck in this little channel. Tested the 50 a bunch of times. You know, MAs are finally trying to round the corner, and this is just going to be something that if this has a bad setup and moves up, it's like okay, that is one of those. That's like the first one on the Tuesday, right? Of that third week or Monday. The first one on Monday of that third week. The one that goes from like 3 total to like 15 in 2 days. That's like the first one on Monday morning of the third week. When you start to see weak shit that doesn't have a setup in a theme with a leader, set up with the leader and move up with the leader, even though it's a piece of shit. And all these names are doing it, right? Like that's what we would see. I'm not saying this is what we will see. I'm saying that you know, as we continue to show strength, I know how this shit works. Like I know that every single day, if we're going to a momentum bull, every single day is just one day closer. It could be tomorrow, right? I'm always trying to be aware of that. I'm always trying to remove all of my bias about what I think could happen and look at actually, what is actually happening. And so this is something I like to see. And so for me, as someone who is using AOI as exposure for the first transition stage, once I have more conviction that we're transitioning into a full-on momentum bull, that's when you're looking to start getting more exposed. Go from 10% buying power to, or buying power, not buying power. If you have 10% capital invested and 90% buying power, you know, take a couple more positions. You have to get to 100%, but maybe now you have half your account in the market in good quality names. And that's kind of like you're trying to catch the waves, right? Like if you're thinking about like the waterfall effect, if like if the strength is like a boat falling down the waterfall, if this is like your waterfall, I'm not going to be bothered with the colors, and like the strength is like a little boat, right? Oh fuck. And it's about to fall over the edge, and so you have your leaders up here. This is like your strength waterfall, and your laggards, they're both going to be L, whatever. Your laggards down here, and strength is like the horizontal level of the boat. And think about it as like breakouts or like strength, or it's like how laggards, leaders start earlier, right? So leaders start earlier because the boat hits them earlier. And as this boat goes down, and remember, it's not just leaders and laggards, it's a gradient based on your strength. So here's the scum, here's your top bucket, and everything fits somewhere in here between. As the boat falls down the waterfall, it's gonna trigger shit like that. And so, the first turn of the corner is gonna trigger shit like AOI and light that are at the top of the leaderboard for strength, like the memory names too. SanDisk, WDC, MU, all those names who are really strong, but still incredibly extended and maybe not as fit to be the momentum strength leaders. And because the type of move that SanDisk and MU made in the last year or whatever, like those are the moves that like stocks are looking to start the rally at the bottom. And so while names like trades like SanDisk and MU, previous leaders can always be a viable option, usually I'm looking for fresh blood and I'm looking to get a good split between, you know, stocks that are strong. And I'm always trying to be very aware of when those previous leaders start to lose strength. Because as you get down here, you're closer to looping back around. And so this is why when I look at the market today, here's what I see. Yesterday I took AOI and tried SanDisk. So those were the two that I went with that I thought had, maybe honestly, it really just came down to the ones that offered me a position. Everything kind of shit the bed in the morning, and I was looking for I mean, it's the classic. It's the classic you kind of look for on the gap up day. You literally just look for the flush, and then you look for what holds the low a day, and then see if we start to reclaim into the close and see what we hold. And that was pretty much what happened. You know, on Monday. I don't know. I mean, this is really constructive. It's building. Everything just looks good right now. I mean, it doesn't matter the individuals. Like once again, the indexes don't matter. The VIX isn't the be all end all of everything, although, once again, it's below 20 right now, which I think a lot of people consider to be a safe swing trading environment. Swing under 20, day trade over. I don't know. I've just heard that before. You know, breadth indicators are looking better. You know, you see individual large cap market, maybe not momentum leading stocks, but important stocks in the market that usually are an okay piece of information. You start to see some of them holding up much better, other than others, much better than others. Look at that one, holy fuck, and this one. But there's a good mix of shit. We're starting to see a lot of good signs, right? And it's just about understanding the transition and understanding that your risk and your aggressiveness in approaching the transition just really depends on what you're looking at. And for me, one of you know, my biggest things to look for. And it's the same thing that it's like one of the first things you learn as a swing trader, especially if you've studied Paul Maggie or you studied anybody who's most people study from him if you studied them. I think most good swing traders did. I mean that's what I did. That's what I know a lot of other people did. Was study him first, and it's just drilled in my mind since I learned it, and it's proven me right and right and right every time. And it's look at the themes. Trade the momentum themes. Trade the shit leading the market up. And the themes are really just an indicator of when the conditions are just a checkpoint on that waterfall. Doesn't matter what percent it's at. If you know you got 4 checkpoints to hit, you don't have to worry about when they're coming. You just got to be aware that when you hit one, 2 is next. Will 2 happen tomorrow? No. Well, I don't know. Will it take a year for 2 to happen? No, I don't know. I have no idea. But what I do know is that my job is to wake up and, see if I'm at that second checkpoint. And if I'm not, I just know I'm at the first. Time is such like time does not matter. Stop thinking about it in terms of time. Just think about it in terms of the like the section of the tape you're in, right? And what you start to see when we have these leaders that have the sustained momentum through the bad market conditions, when everything starts to go back up, it's just halfway down that quarter down, 10% down that waterfall. It's one of those, right? Lag and shit starts to come up with it. So I'm looking at Rocket Lab and I'm looking at Lunar and I'm looking at all these space names, and there are some names I was looking at chasing, and here's another one is these are all breaking out together. And unfortunately, these were just really hard to justify entries, I think, at least for my system. I just don't have, and once again, Cypher is one that I think, it could have justified, but once again, it's just, could this be the second checkpoint? Sure, but I don't make my money at the second checkpoint. I make my money at the third one. right? Like, who cares? Who cares what you're gonna miss? Stop worrying so much about your missed trades. As dumb as that sounds to say, like, there's no need to get all like literal about it. Because if you're doing it right, you shouldn't care. And if you're like, oh, yeah, you should care about your trades, well, you won't have to if you do it right. So fix your own shit first, and then you won't have to worry about them. Like, that's why I look at these and it's like, I mean, it's whatever. I'm sure these are gonna do well. I'm sure they are. They look pretty good. And I could have bought them because I thought they would, and that's just not how you do it. Because we could be back down tomorrow. I'll tell you what, the market is the type of thing where if I went 50% or anything close to that long on Monday or today, I swear to God, the way this world works, we would have fallen below the 200. I swear to God, that's how it would have worked. I swear to God, like I can't even, I just know it for a fact. If I tried to fully position in all these names that I looked at and I was like, yeah, these are all going up. These are all going up. I'm so sure of it. I swear to God, it all would have crapped the bed. I mean, think about it. There was, if we lost the 50, I mean, we could have had a waterfall of a day. And I think, as stupid as it sounds, I think the market is going up because I'm playing it right. And, you've seen it in past runs too, right? Is when shit really starts to click, is when you get the theme sync. When shit all starts moving, when the weak ones move with the strong ones at the same time, regardless of strength. So, like, these, like, Ark, look at how dog shit Ark is. Like, I mean, most of these look pretty bad. Probably justifiably, I don't think these companies make any money. Um, like I've probably made more money than like Rigetti like has. If you take away like donation money and like like grants or whatever, partnerships, I don't care. I swear to God, like my Rigetti trade probably made me more like dollars than okay. But like it literally doesn't matter. When these things are going up, they're going up, and that's how the game works, and that's how the game has always worked. That's why we don't look at we look at what they do to recognize what theme they are. But it doesn't really matter beyond that. Same way that, earnings matter, but companies gap up on bad earnings, companies gap down on good earnings. Look at MU. This had like ridiculous earnings. I'm not a big like earnings guy. I don't like read too much into it. I like to see the percents they beat the numbers by. But this had like historical earnings, I think. And look at what it did after it. That's why, it just really doesn't matter. And same other video too is when the shit starts to heat up, like, oh, this will be like the end stage, right? Okay, so like the themes start moving together. If you remember like the office analogy from the other video I did, like what first starts happening is like the individual themes start moving together, and then the next stage is all the stocks in the themes move together and all the themes move together at the same time. So like what you're seeing now is like the first half of that. Like PL, like think about it this way. Like data centers broke out pretty much like today or yesterday, or you could really even argue it started at the bottom with this one at least. Like this is like this is where this should have been like was the buy because like these names like you really could and I can't believe hindsight, but well that's just a terrible. That's not the type of entry that over 1,000 trades I'm gonna want to take. And so these break out together with the bottom. And so when you ask me my opinion right now in the market, I'm telling you data centers is the strongest theme in the entire market. I think you can buy any of these names and they're about to go up. You know, that's what I think. That's not how I approach it though, right? Like you have to separate what you think from what you know is reality. And the reality is I'm going to wait for the setups on these that I know for sure that over 1,000 trades I'm going to want to take. So you see data centers breaking out. You see all of them. This is the strength gradient. When you look at like space, these are all strong, but do you see how like the weak ones are still weak? Like PL and Lunar are pretty strong, but the weak ones in the theme are still weak. So it's a pretty good theme. It has some sync, it has some strength, but it's not fully juiced like together. It's not fully, the chemistry isn't there yet. Whereas you look at something like this, and everything's breaking out. And there are this theme has so many names in it. Like there's so many of these companies that like check the description box when you just say data centers, old Bitcoin miners, uh, you know, carried by partnerships. These are all like fucking. It's a bunch of shell companies. Some of them are real. I think Iron's like the Mike Alfred's like a board member on this one, but I don't think many people have been watching Iron. I think most people watching the data centers are watching these ones because they've just been like held up for, this is kind of like desynced almost. It's no longer moving with the rest of the theme. And while all these look different, like this is literally, these three names are the exact same setup. It's ridiculous. Cypher Wolf and MBIS right now is the exact same fucking setup. Literally just S tier strength, A tier strength, B tier strength. These are the exact same setup, and look at the angle of them. Like it's just the angle determines the strength. I think this shape is way stronger as a market leader than um what was I just on? This shape. I much more like the curling on NBIS than I do the you know this is very nice, and it's why it's better than Cypher, which is a descending really large wedge base thing, and Wolf is once again just a choppy ascending wedge range base, whatever. It's all the same length, it's all the same setup. Whereas like PL, Lunar, Rocket Lab, you can see that the sync isn't as much as there, and then you isn't that there as much, and then you look at other names like this. That's not the right name. What was I thinking of? I was just thinking of TER. Like look at all these charts. They all look the fucking same, right? I mean, there's so many. There's a lot that I don't have on my focus list, but I think that there's like 8 charts that look like this. Some of them are like not great. What is it? AIEE? I don't even remember. There's so many of them. I just have the strong ones. Like so you see like now you're thinking like data centers is you know the strongest. And I always like, and this is just my preference, I always like bases out of like this is when I talked about it earlier. It's the same thing as like this is nice, but like I want like at the start of the run, if you think about where this timed up, where the start of SanDisk and the memory move, like look at this. It's still breaking out, but I like the themes that are like this. I like the ones that are like data centers is just a fantastic example of everything you could ask for in a leading theme. I really think it. Doesn't matter how stupid and useless the companies are, like at all. That's what's going up. That's all that matters. Only language you need to speak. And that's why I once again I have no problem with these, and I think they're a very close second in terms of strength. It's just the next progression of the setup, right? Except this one's like early to the market almost. I mean it doesn't really matter why why it moves the way it moves. You just gotta go with the flow that it's giving you. And so you look for, it's all about getting to checkpoint 3. When is shit really starting to turn up, and when can I fully risk on? And for me, and what I've observed and what I've learned, my honest opinion is that starts happening with when like the second in command themes are like going. And so here's kind of the way I play the rally, right? So the bottom here, it's leaders. It's not going balls to the walls. It's not over positioning. You don't really have to get that invested. You don't have to force anything. If there are good trades out there, by all means, that fit your playbook and you're confident in and you're okay to lose money on, by all means trade them. But it's just not going to be, it's not a lot of opportunities. There's a few that if you're looking very attentively, you can catch them. Like that's what everybody's so focused on, but that is not at all where you're going to make your money. This is what happens. This is your third checkpoint. Is when now maybe next week we see Lunar and PL set up in flags like the same way that this shit did. And we're going to see the same thing happen where they shared the pattern of a flag or whatever and then all break out together. So think about it how like data centers was a couple days ago, and then maybe then like if we want to call the data centers breaking out at the very bottom, and then if we want to say the like the semis names or whatever broke out like on you know the next move out of the bottom, and then maybe space breaks out, then a few days or a week later, what you're looking for is when all of those themes start setting up together. That is your third checkpoint. Think about September, right? If you trade September, this is what it felt like. Is when you looked at early September and you see not only theme sync between themes, where the themes are breaking out together, just like we saw in data centers. That's the first checkpoint. Or the no, sorry. The first checkpoint is the leaders. The second checkpoint is when you see the lagging themes start to participate from the leaders. And then the third checkpoint is when not only is the second happening, but now everything is moving together. So, remember how I talked about how data centers, and then a few days later, or maybe a week later, uh, all those semis names, and then maybe a week later space. What you're looking for is all of those strong themes that are in sync to break out together. And this is what happened in September, and this is the type of market that makes like retires people pretty much. I think who were trading it correctly. Um, so like these all are setting up together. Maybe not that one. They're all breaking out together. And you can see the difference in strength in this whole theme still, right? You can see what's strong. Not only is that happening, but you're also having the other themes do the same thing. I don't even know if other nuclear names really did that good. Oh yeah, this thing I think just chopped, but it was so behind, but it got a little bit of gas there. You saw all the other themes start to pick up. What were some other good names from that run? I think sound like look at this. Now you have all the themes breaking out together. Like this is your go time period. This is the third checkpoint. This is a full momentum bull run. This is where, this is that 25% of the market, the 30% of the market. Qual Maggie tells you you only need to trade to be as successful as you can be. This is the only type of market you have to trade. You can try and trade other markets, but it really just doesn't. In the grand scheme of things, the difference in a few stocks at the very start of the rally, a couple percent of your account, does it affect compounding for sure? Maybe, depending. If I got lucky and stuffed my entire port into everything that gapped up on Monday, maybe I would be getting lucky right now. But that's not, you know, it's not the time to get exposure because I know it's not when everything is going up. I want to own everything that goes up. I don't want positions that go down. And for me, when I don't have positions that are guaranteed great, easy money to go up, I'm not replacing them with a worse position. I'm just not filling that slot. And so all I'm looking for as I progress through the rally is stop thinking about all the trades you could take. Think about the stocks you want to own and have in your account. That because that really makes you justify the setup on it. When you look at it, it's so easy to convince yourself that if you want to find a reason to buy it, and I fell victim to this all the time when I first started. If you want to find a reason to, you know, justify something to yourself, you can always do it. So people get stuck in that loop in trading and in life, and it just doesn't make any sense. So for me, I'm a financial advisor for my own equity, and I treat that. I'm my most valued client. I don't treat myself with anything less than the absolute, utmost like respect and dignity. I'm the prize client. I'm the most important to myself, right? Like, why would you treat your best client, the client whose interests you most closely share, because you literally have the same exact ones, why would you treat that poorly? I want my client to have the best account he can have. I don't want him seeing unreasonable drawdowns. I want him to see a smooth, consistent equity curve that just goes fucking up. Now, that's the real compounding. It's not about the start of the rally. Don't worry about the stocks at the very bottom. Worry about what sets up after. And so what I look for here is I'm looking for now multiple themes to set up in sync. Here's what I think very well could happen with the move that data centers have made off of the bottom. I think that these are in a pretty fantastic spot to start flagging. Wolf, look at how much this is up. 50%. Wolf isn't up that much, but oh yeah, it is. It's 50% too, pretty much. 42%. You know, Qualmegi always says like, 30% a move or whatever. I'm not here to just regurgitate the shit he says because I think it's much better spoken by him. Very, very much encourage everybody to watch him. I've watched, I think, pretty much all of his videos, and this is what I look for here. So when I'm going into next week, I'm looking at capital markets setting up. I'm looking at space setting up. Uh, PL, Lunar, Rocket Lab, all of it setting up together. Whether Semis wants to do that with the Monday breakout, who knows? It could or it couldn't. But it's all about steps and changes in behavior you see. And if you see all of a sudden, you know, maybe it's not the top two strongest themes. Maybe it's not it's usually the first one. I'm always looking at the strongest one, and that's how I'm gauging everything else. If it's all cyclical, the strongest one gives me like my direction. It gives me my relativity to everything else, right? And maybe you see a strong one and maybe a weak one or maybe another strong one set up together. You're like, oh, huh, I've been watching this market do absolutely fucking nothing for 8 months, you know, with like one or two leading themes or like, and that's why it's been, tricky to trade is because it's not the easy money markets. You do have to be very selective. And I'm not really down that much through it, but it's just been frustratingly selective. And I really think that the craziest thing in trading that you have to do is literally instead of thinking about it like, yeah, I can beat this, like I'm the dog, I'm a dog, I'm the boss. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck these conditions, like I'll set my own conditions. I gave up so long ago trying to, I gave up thinking that way. I used to think that way. And I don't even care. If there's a better trader out there that can trade through that shit and make money, I have no ill will towards that. I actually think it's fantastic. And I'm a little jealous, but I just, but from the journey I've been on, that's just it's just something that I try and sit out of and not involve myself with, and just wait for the shit that's gonna give my most prized client, the equity curve he wants or whatever, right? And so when we look at these, and now we see data centers after 8 months of metals making moves without any other really lagging themes or any other broad terms of market participation. And you look at the move space made in early December when everyone was thinking we still had the chance to continue a rally up, and you're looking at that and you started to see other themes participate, and then it all fell apart. Like this is the first. This is it hasn't looked this clean. It hasn't looked. The market has not looked this clean since like since last year. And it's just about what shares the trend, right? What's all moving together. And so when I see shit like space set up with maybe shit like data centers, this is something that I'm now, these are names I think are completely fine to add to my port. So if I see data centers, if I see space set up alone, I'd maybe trade one. Like if maybe next week space sets up all by itself, I'd probably try and look at like Lunar. That'd be my only trade. then if if space and then data centers set up together next week, then I'm looking to buy MBIS and I'm looking to buy Wolf and I'm looking to buy PL and I'm looking to buy Lunar. Maybe not 100% buying power worth of those positions, but those are my buys for the next couple like weeks. Like there's always a right time to buy. It's the most cliche thing ever, but it's so true. There's always a right time to buy, and it's when everything is moving together. And the more you get closer to a real run participating, the more you'll see moving together. And the hardest part for me was learning how to get aggressive and how to properly take that knowledge and actually implement it in what I'm choosing to trade. Like at what point do I get aggressive? At what point don't I? So when I see these first leaders, if I see these in a buyable position, these are really just they're just so hard to catch. Like this is such a difficult trade. I'm not bitter. I saw some people like some guy people I know bought MBIS like off pretty much the absolute lows, and that's a setup they have, and I just man, that's too sketchy, man. Like I'll take the free move on MBIS, please. So we'll see if this sets up. This is one like because of how strong this is. Think about it this way. It's so difficult to figure out where you're at on the spectrum. Like MBIS is my lighthouse. It's my beacon. If something is setting up before MBIS, it has to be like X, Y, or Z because MBIS is the strongest. So that's why when I look at MBIS and I look at like um fuck, what was the other one? I was like talking about like semis, I think, or all these ones. Like MBIS broke out first. It broke out first because this is where the move starts for MBIS. It doesn't start here. MBIS is a strength setup. It has one of two directions. It's up or down. And when the market conditions are aligning, MBIS does not give a fuck. It is going up. It's going up because it's a market leader. You see the same shit. All the leaders do the same thing. So like these like are the like they're just impossible entries to get because you can't know for sure this is going to be the last leg down. But this for me, seeing this type of move on a stock that has so clearly indicated, it wants to go much higher, this looks exactly the same as SMCI did in 2024. It's the same type of thing, which led to a PB short, and this is like a 210% move. 200% move if you sold this on PB short day or at least trimmed a majority of your position and peaked at about 245%. Like right, hyper liquid, freakishly high ADR, super movers. Like why would you even look at owning anything other than shit that is going to do this? All these trades that fall in between the lines are just boredom trades, and this maybe not this as an example. Huh. Because this one was actually pretty strong as hard as it was to trade, but um like I'm trying to think of, once again I'm trying to think of shitty stocks and I just don't even know them because I don't like as soon as I know they're weak they're off my list. This watch list goes from 200 items to 70, and out of 200 items where I didn't even have a focus list, where my only job was to observe, now all of a sudden I've narrowed 200 names. I've like cleaned out 90% of the crap because it's so obvious now what the like what is even worth trading. If it's not on this list to me, it's not even worth like trading, right? Yet. And that's why I have a flag list is because on my focus is the shit that's moving together now. On my flag list is the shit that is lagging still and still hasn't had the boat pass it on the waterfall if you stayed around long enough to know that example from fucking 7 minutes in or whatever. Like then these start to get added to your focus list and then your leaders are, eventually going to start to fall off and so they might cycle off and that would be a whole nother topic is, that's when you kind of that's when you start to stop like a run. That's when you start to calm down at the end of the run when you realize your watch list is full of the junk. and the junk is going straight up for sure. It looks pretty good. But you're like you think back and you're like, oh, this shit stayed on the bottom of my flag for the first 2 months. Wonder how it all ended up in my focus list. That's the transition from the momentum bull, full momentum bull, to eventually a transition bear, and whether or not that wants to lead into chop and move up, or then a full on momentum bull. You know, the indicator's the same. It's you slow down. And the more the shit seems to be in sync, breaking out, oh fuck, breaking out, doesn't have to be, lots of times you'll see it on the same day. Like Monday is like a gap day. Like that was my day to come back from cash. After I saw us, look at bottom, that's when I started to play again. Just a little bit, but so I'm looking at the first leaders off the bottom. I'm looking for the shit that starts to move together. I like the shit that moves with the leaders, right? Like if two laggers move together, it's like it's okay. But a lot of the times, because the leaders are determining the movement and the oscillation and the momentum of the market, these are the ones that are most likely to stay above the 10. If you use a trailing 10, which I hope most people do, because I don't think there's a better way to trail your swings. If you use the trailing 10-day simple moving average and you just wait for a close under that, like they're just like I don't know, but I could probably ramble about the specific, thing like entry methods or whatever for a very long time because I do think there's other ways to do it, but I still think the 10 day is the best one to do it. When the leaders set up, the laggards, if this is leading the market, if this is breaking out with the leaders, that's how you justify a laggard, in my opinion. So, like Cypher, see how this is working. Once again, it could all turn around tomorrow. See how this is working because it's breaking out in sync with the leaders, whereas the other ones aren't aren't all working throughout the theme, because they're not in sync. All the data centers are in sync and they're moving together, and that's what you're looking for in a strong theme. And what you're looking for in a strong market is a bunch of strong themes. And so the more shit you see start to click, the more shit that moves together. People are so like scared of days where, and I understand it, days where you have to get exposure are uncomfortable to trade. For anyone who's not an adrenaline junkie, I really do not look I don't look forward to days where I wake up and everything is breaking out. And that's just my mindset, and it's how I've always, you know, framed my trading is protect what I have over get more. So I just have a natural tendency to have, reservation to entries naturally, because that way, instead of like, you know, it's just like I said earlier, you'll always find a way to justify something to yourself unless you know how to be logical with how you do it. If I'm trying to tell myself that this is a bad trade, in order to override that and take it, my logic has to check every box for me. Has to check every box for me. I'm not sitting there trying to think of, well, I'm gonna take this, and maybe I probably shouldn't, and maybe it's not a good setup, and maybe the market's not good, but man, I think it could do well. I want to make some money, right? Like that's not how I think about it, and I think it's the correct way to approach it. Is I have to be unable to convince myself it's a bad trade, and it's really just the sink. And these days are so scary, and you just have to trade them. That's why I said before, it's so uncomfortable, and it's why it's so difficult to let go and be okay with just trusting what your system is, you know, and you override that by making sure your system and your setups are good enough for you to have full confidence in them despite what you think, not your gut feeling. You know what I'm saying? And so as we push into a potential run. Every day gives me more information. Every day more things are starting to move together. Every day things are starting to set up together. One day, and it happens way quicker than people realize, way quicker, because this shit is like it is not it's way quicker than people think. And you have to be ready for the days where you think that exists. So for me, you know, when I go through examples that I'm using, I generally, for each idea, try and stick to like one trade. Like if I'm using a trade as my example, I like to pick the trades that I feel like I could talk about for I could make multiple different points with my trade, right? And like Lunar is one of those. And it generally has to do with stocks that are unconventional and difficult to enter. Because if you buy shit that looks like this, just from a chart perspective, it's like a 9 out of 10. Like these charts are not gonna like this is not like a good setup on 9 out of 10 charts, and you have to just understand when it is. Or like USAR was another really good one. And I don't remember where I own this. I think it was in the 16 somewhere. And I think I sold on the UAMY PB short day. Yeah, I got lucky with that one. Usually I try not to, just trail a 10, but I was up, you know, I felt like it was a good time to sell because I understand, it's all about like trying to narrow down the expected outcomes based off of what you learned. And, something like Lunar, if you look on, the 19th of December, the day that all these space names gapped up and continued up, like the entry here is the theme sync, right? And so when if you asked me to justify my Lunar trade and you told me that out of 10 of these charts wouldn't work, I would agree with you. I'm willing to make exceptions few and far between when it fits the context. And for me, such a very incredible, important piece of context is the shit that moves together. And it starts with the leaders, and then it spreads out into the themes, and then it spreads out into the market. From the leaders to the themes to the market. Every single time. Leaders, themes, market. Waterfall down, boat down, checks every box. And you have to understand there's a window where you get to buy, and that is the third checkpoint. It's the themes full momentum run part of the run. And most traders who have done their back testing, I think, kind of get to that conclusion because they look at their equity curves and they're like, oh wow, this very clearly has, periods of time where it's my equity curve is going up, and then there's periods of time where my equity curve is going sideways or slightly down. And you're like, oh yeah, it makes sense that I'm trading way too much. Well, I wonder how that works, and then you never really stop doing it. But it's so important to understand that that's when you, in my opinion, risk on again and click is when everything starts to show a setup together. Catching starting at the right time of the rally has nothing to do with catching the first setup or the second setups. It's about catching the market setup. The market setup. The market has a setup. It's not going to be on indexes, it's going to be in strength. When everything is ready to go up, when those orders finally trickle down and everything's moving and going up together, that's your sign to buy. When you see that gradient of strength like reach its apex. It's like a fucking opera, and like it's like the high note. You can feel it building up, right? You know what's coming. Nothing else really matters for making the type of money I think most people doing this are trying to make. So obsessed with week to week gain, day to day gains, week to week gains, even month to month gains when they're Signing up for something that's years and years and years long. So all that matters. The real compounding is done rally over rally, not day over day. And the important periods of time to catch are when leading setups and lagging setups are in sync. You see themes starting to participate, so multiple themes all, not only doing well within their theme, but also doing well within the market, like we saw once again in September with, there were energy names, there were battery names, there were basic materials names, there were minerals names, there was metals names, there was quantum computing names, there was like drones names, there was LiDAR names. Everything had a theme and all the themes were doing well, and that's why everything went up, and that's why everybody made so much money in September, and that's all you have to look for and nothing else before that matters.